The old man's hands shook as he reached for the glass of water. Before his fingers could touch it, the glass slipped from the edge of the cafe table and shattered across the floor. The room fell silent. A few customers looked up. Most looked away. The old man froze, embarrassed. His faded brown jacket was soaked. Tiny pieces of glass glittered around his worn shoes. I'm sorry, he whispered. A loud voice cut through the silence. You've got to be kidding me. The cafe manager stormed over, his face burning with anger. Every single week it's something. You scare customers away, make a mess, and now this? The old man lowered his head. I'll clean it. Just give me a minute. You can't even stand without shaking. The manager pointed toward the door. Leave. No one moved. No one spoke. Except one woman. She hurried from behind the counter, grabbing a towel before kneeling beside the old man. It's okay, she said softly. Please don't touch the glass. You'll cut yourself. The manager spun toward her. Monica! She didn't answer him. Instead, she carefully wiped water from the old man's jacket. Are you hurt? He looked at her with tired blue eyes. No, just embarrassed. She smiled. Nothing to be embarrassed about. The manager's voice echoed through the cafe. I said stop helping him. Monica slowly stood. He needs help. He needs to leave. He hasn't done anything wrong. He just broke a glass. He can't pay for it. I'll pay. The manager laughed. You always have a bleeding heart. Monica reached into her apron and pulled out a folded $10 bill. Here. I don't want your money. Then let him stay until he catches his breath. I said no. Customers shifted uncomfortably. Several quietly watched from their tables. A teenage boy even lifted his phone before his mother gently pushed it back down. The old man tried to stand. His knees buckled. Without thinking, Monica caught him before he hit the floor. The manager slammed his hand against the counter. That's enough. His voice became cold. You're fired. The cafe went completely still. Monica blinked. What? You heard me. For helping someone? For refusing to follow instructions. She stared at him. I've worked here 6 years, and today is your last. Silence filled the room. The old man looked crushed. This is my fault. Monica shook her head. No. She untied her apron with slow hands. Every employee watched. Some looked angry. Some looked guilty. Not one of them spoke. She folded the apron neatly and placed it on the counter. I hope, she said quietly, if your father ever needs help, someone ignores the rules too. The manager rolled his eyes. Take your speeches somewhere else. Monica picked up the old man's worn canvas bag. Come on. Together, they walked out into the cold evening rain. Behind them, the cafe door closed with a dull thud. Neither of them noticed someone sitting in the corner booth. A middle-aged woman in a navy business suit slowly closed her laptop. She had watched everything, every word, every choice. She quietly picked up her phone. Yes, she said after the call connected. I think you should hear about what happened. Rain tapped against the windshield as Monica drove the old man across town. Her little sedan rattled every time it hit a pothole. The heater barely worked. I'm sorry, the old man said again. You've apologized 5 times. I cost you your job. You didn't. He looked at her. I did. She smiled without taking her eyes off the road. No, one angry manager did. The old man gave a tiny laugh. You make it sound simple. Sometimes it is. For a few miles, neither of them spoke. Streetlights reflected across wet pavement. The city felt quieter than usual. Finally, Monica glanced toward him. Do you have somewhere to stay? He hesitated. A small apartment. You live alone? Yes. No family nearby? His answer took longer. Not anymore. She didn't ask another question. She knew grief when she heard it. When they reached an old brick apartment building, Monica parked near the entrance. I'll walk you upstairs. You've already done enough. I insist. The elevator was broken. Together they climbed 3 flights of stairs. Each step seemed harder for him than the last. Outside apartment 3B, he searched every pocket before finally finding an old brass key. I'm getting forgetful. It happens. He unlocked the door. The apartment surprised her. It wasn't dirty. It was simply empty. 1 chair, 1 bookshelf, a tiny kitchen, a narrow bed, almost nothing else. On the wall hung a single framed photograph. A smiling young woman stood beside the old man. She wore a white summer dress. Both of them looked 20 years younger. Monica noticed him staring at the picture. My wife, he said quietly. She had a beautiful smile. She made every room brighter. When did she pass? 8 years ago. I'm sorry. So am I. He carefully set the photograph straight. After she was gone, the house felt too large. So you moved here? He nodded. I thought a smaller place would feel less lonely. Did it? He smiled sadly. No. Monica looked around. The refrigerator hummed. The sink held one plate, one cup, one spoon. That was all. Have you eaten today? He avoided her eyes. I had some toast. When? He hesitated. This morning. She opened the refrigerator, almost empty, half a carton of milk, mustard, a few eggs, nothing else. She quietly closed the door. Wait here. You don't have to. I know. 20 minutes later she returned carrying grocery bags. Bread, soup, fruit, chicken, rice, fresh vegetables. The old man stared. I can't accept this. You can. I can't pay you. I'm not asking you to. Tears slowly filled his eyes. No one's done something like this for me in a long time. Monica unpacked everything while pretending not to notice him wiping his face. She placed soup in a pot. Soon the apartment smelled warm, comforting, almost like home. The old man sat quietly at the small table. What made you stop today? He finally asked. What do you mean? You could have ignored me. She stirred the soup. My mom taught me something. What was that? She smiled. People remember kindness long after they forget words. Your mother sounds wise. She was. Were. She passed away from cancer. His face softened. You were young. I was 19. I'm sorry. She nodded. My daughter was 8. He looked surprised. You have a daughter? Lily. How old is she now? 12. Does she know what happened today? Not yet. He smiled gently. I think she'll be proud of you. Monica laughed softly. She'll probably ask whether I brought home dessert. The old man chuckled for the first time that evening. For a brief moment, neither of them felt alone. Across town, Monica unlocked the door to her small townhouse. Before she could even step inside, footsteps thundered across the hallway. Mom! Lily threw her arms around her. You're late. I know. Did you lose track of time again? Monica hugged her tightly. No. Lily stepped back. You've been crying. Monica forced a smile. It's been a long day. Her father, Harold, looked up from the living room recliner. At 72, arthritis had slowed him down, but not his sharp mind. You okay, sweetheart? Monica sat down heavily. I lost my job. Silence. Lily's smile disappeared. Harold removed his glasses. What happened? Monica took a slow breath. I helped an elderly customer. That's it? My manager said I disobeyed him. Harold frowned. I've known foolish bosses. He leaned forward. But firing someone for kindness? Monica shrugged. I guess kindness wasn't on today's menu? Lily crawled beside her on the couch. Are we going to lose the house? The question hit Monica harder than losing the job itself. She pulled her daughter close. No. But you don't know that. I know we'll figure it out. Harold quietly stood and disappeared into his bedroom. He returned carrying an old metal box. Inside were neatly folded bills, savings. Not much, but everything he had. He placed the box on the coffee table. This buys us time. Monica shook her head immediately. No, it isn't charity. Dad, it's family. She reached for his hand. I can't take your savings. You already have. She looked confused. He smiled. You've been taking care of me for 5 years. Neither of them spoke. Lily suddenly hugged both of them. We'll be okay. Monica wished she had her daughter's certainty. That night, after everyone went to bed, she sat alone at the kitchen table. A notebook lay open beside a calculator, mortgage, electricity, medicine, school supplies, groceries. Every number felt heavier than the last. She rubbed her tired eyes. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Instead, she answered. Hello? A calm woman's voice came through the speaker. Is this Monica Carter? Yes. My name is Evelyn Brooks. A pause. I was at the café today. Monica sat up straighter. I saw everything. Another pause. I think tomorrow morning is going to be very different from what you expect. Before Monica could ask another question, the call ended. She stared at the silent phone. Outside, rain continued to fall. Across the city, in the small apartment, the old man carefully opened a dusty wooden box he hadn't touched in years. Inside lay a faded photograph. several legal documents, and a gold signet ring bearing a family crest. He held the ring for a long moment before slipping it onto his finger. Then, for the first time in years, he picked up his phone and made a single call. "I'll need everyone in the conference room," he said quietly. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." The voice on the other end sounded stunned. "Sir, are you certain?" The old man looked out his apartment window toward the sleeping city. "Yes." His tired eyes no longer looked defeated. "They've waited long enough." Monica barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the cafe manager pointing toward the door. "You're fired." The words echoed through the night. At 6:30 the next morning, she was already awake, packing Lily's lunch as if nothing had changed. Peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, a handwritten note tucked inside the lunchbox. "Love you. Have a great day." Lily smiled when she found it. "You always do this." "I always will." Harold looked up from the kitchen table. "Any luck with job listings?" "I'm starting after I drop Lily off." She tried to sound confident. It almost worked. Almost. Just as Lily grabbed her backpack, someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Monica frowned. "I'll get it." When she opened the door, a man in a dark gray suit stood on the porch. Behind him waited 2 black SUVs, both spotless, both expensive. The man removed his glasses. "Ms. Monica Carter?" "Yes. My name is Daniel Reeves." He handed her a business card. Senior partner Reeves and Holloway Law Group. Monica stared at it. "I think you've got the wrong house." "I don't." He stepped aside. The rear door of the first SUV opened. The old man slowly climbed out. Only, he looked different. His jacket had been replaced with a tailored charcoal overcoat. His white hair was neatly combed. His posture was still careful, but there was a quiet confidence in the way he carried himself. 2 more attorneys stepped out behind him. Monica blinked. "What?" The old man smiled. "Good morning." She looked from him to the lawyers, then back again. "I don't understand." "I know." Harold walked onto the porch. Lily peeked around the doorway. Even the neighbors began pulling back their curtains. The old man took a slow step forward. "I owe you an explanation." 20 minutes later, everyone sat around Monica's tiny kitchen table. Coffee steamed from mismatched mugs. The old man folded his hands. "My name isn't simply Arthur." Monica listened quietly. "My full name is Arthur Whitmore." The name meant nothing to her. Seeing the confusion, Daniel Reeves opened a leather folder and placed several documents on the table. Photographs, newspaper clippings, corporate reports. Monica's eyes widened. Across the top of one page was a familiar logo, Whitmore Hospitality Group. Hotels, restaurants, resorts, thousands of employees, hundreds of locations across the country. Harold leaned forward. "I know this company." Arthur nodded. "I started it 43 years ago." Silence filled the room. Monica looked at him in disbelief. "You own all of this?" "I did." "You did?" "I stepped away years ago after my wife passed." He glanced toward the window. "My son became CEO." Daniel continued. "Mr. Whitmore has remained the majority shareholder." Monica slowly shook her head. "Then why were you eating alone in a neighborhood cafe?" Arthur smiled sadly. "Because I wanted to know what my company had become." She frowned. "I don't understand." "My name opens every door." He looked down at his weathered hands. "But it also changes every conversation. If people know who I am, they perform. They smile. They pretend. I wasn't looking for perfect service. I was looking for real character." Harold whispered, "So you went unnoticed?" Arthur nodded. "For months." Monica remembered his worn jacket, the old shoes, the shaking hands. "You dressed like—" "An ordinary old man," Daniel corrected gently. "An overlooked old man." Arthur's eyes met Monica's. "And yesterday I found the one employee who treated me with dignity." Monica looked down. "I just helped someone." Arthur smiled. "Exactly." Across town, Cafe Maple Corner opened like every other morning. Coffee machines hissed. Pastries filled the display case. Customers lined up. The manager, Rick Dawson, straightened his tie with a satisfied grin. He had already hired Monica's replacement, problem solved, or so he thought. At exactly 8 o'clock, 3 black SUVs stopped outside. Customers turned toward the windows. 4 attorneys entered first, then Daniel, then Arthur, finally. 2 members of Whitmore Hospitality's executive board. The cafe went completely silent. Rick forced a smile. "Welcome. Can I help you?" Arthur looked around the room. His calm voice carried farther than shouting ever could. "Yes, Rick recognized him. His smile vanished. You... Arthur nodded. Good morning, Mr. Dawson. Rick suddenly looked pale. I didn't realize... I know. Arthur slowly removed his gloves. That's the point. Daniel placed a sealed envelope on the counter. Rick stared at it. What's this? A notice. Regarding what? An immediate corporate investigation. Rick laughed nervously. There must be some misunderstanding. Arthur looked directly into his eyes. Is there? No one in the cafe moved. Customers quietly reached for their phones. Employees exchanged nervous glances. Rick swallowed. It was just an employee issue. Arthur tilted his head. An employee issue? Yes. You fired a woman. She disobeyed me. Arthur's expression never changed. For helping an elderly customer. Rick's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Arthur continued. I've spent 43 years building a company around one promise. He pointed toward the framed mission statement hanging behind the counter. Read it. Rick turned slowly. The words suddenly felt much larger than yesterday. Every guest leaves feeling respected. Arthur spoke softly. Did I? Rick looked trapped. Arthur didn't raise his voice. Did I? No. And why not? Rick couldn't answer. The silence said enough. Meanwhile, Monica sat at home, still trying to process everything. She looked at Arthur. So, why are you here? He smiled. Because kindness deserves protection. Daniel opened another folder. There is more. He slid a document toward her. This is yesterday's security report. Monica looked confused. What security report? Arthur answered. The cafe has cameras. She blinked. I forgot. Most people do. Daniel pressed a button on a tablet. The footage began playing. The kitchen table fell silent. There was Monica, helping Arthur, offering her own money, protecting him from the broken glass. Then, Rick stepped closer. His voice filled the room. Throw him out. You're fired. Take your speeches somewhere else. The recording continued. Monica noticed something she hadn't seen yesterday, a woman in a navy business suit sitting quietly in the corner. Evelyn Brooks. Arthur smiled. She wasn't there by accident. Monica looked surprised. You sent her? Arthur nodded. Evelyn is director of guest experience. She secretly visits our locations every month. Anonymous evaluations. Monica remembered the phone call. So she called you. Arthur smiled. Immediately, Daniel added. The security footage and Evelyn's written report match perfectly. Harold leaned back. So Rick can't deny anything. Daniel smiled. He already tried. At the cafe, Rick was doing exactly that. It was company policy. Daniel calmly opened a binder. No, Rick frowned. It absolutely was. Daniel flipped to another page. Please show me where. Rick reached for the employee handbook. His hands shook. He turned pages faster, then slower. Finally, he stopped. Nothing. Daniel looked at him. There is no policy allowing employees to refuse reasonable assistance to elderly guests. Arthur quietly added. In fact, Daniel read aloud, employees are encouraged to provide reasonable assistance whenever guest safety is involved. Rick's face turned white. Arthur looked around the cafe. Would anyone here like to tell me what happened yesterday? No one spoke. Then, a young cashier slowly raised her hand. My name's Emily. Rick shot her a warning look. Arthur noticed. You don't need permission. Emily took a deep breath. Monica didn't do anything wrong. She always helped people. A cook stepped out from the kitchen. Rick embarrassed customers all the time. One by one, voices filled the cafe. Employees who had stayed silent yesterday finally spoke. He yelled at veterans. He mocked people using food assistance cards. He made pregnant employees work double shifts. He ignored customer complaints. Rick looked around in disbelief. You all... Arthur interrupted gently. They've been waiting. Daniel quietly made notes. Every statement, every witness, every name. Rick realized something terrifying. This wasn't about one firing anymore. It was about years of behavior, and it was all coming into the light. Back at Monica's house, Arthur stood before leaving. I have one favor to ask. Monica looked surprised. A favor? Yes. I'd like you to come with us. Where? My headquarters. She stared. Why? Arthur smiled. Because this story isn't finished. She hesitated. I don't even own a suit. Arthur chuckled. I wasn't looking for a suit yesterday. Daniel smiled too. And we're certainly not looking for one today. Monica looked toward Harold. He gave a small nod. You've spent years taking care of everyone else. Go. Lily grinned. Bring back another story. Monica laughed for the first time since losing her job. I'll try. As the SUVs pulled away from her neighborhood, she watched familiar streets disappear behind her. She had no idea what waited at the end of the drive. She assumed she was simply going to answer a few questions. She couldn't have known that an entire board of directors was already waiting for her, or that sitting inside Arthur's private office was a sealed envelope bearing her name. Inside it was a handwritten letter. Arthur had written it nearly 9 years earlier, long before he had ever met Monica Carter. The black SUVs rolled through a set of iron gates and into the headquarters of Whitmore Hospitality Group. Monica stared out the window. A 40-story glass tower stretched into the morning sky. Employees hurried through the front entrance with coffee cups and briefcases, unaware that the company's founder had just arrived. She looked down at her simple blue sweater and jeans. I don't belong here. Arthur smiled from the seat across from her. I've spent my whole life learning that the people who belong in important rooms rarely believe they do. Daniel opened the door for them. The lobby fell strangely quiet. A receptionist looked up. Her eyes widened. Mr. Whitmore. Arthur nodded politely. Good morning, Sarah. She immediately stood. I thought you weren't coming in until next month. So did everyone else. That answer spread through the building faster than an alarm. Employees whispered, elevators opened, managers stepped into hallways. The founder was here, and no one knew why. Monica stayed close behind Arthur, feeling dozens of curious eyes following her. One executive leaned toward another. Who's she? No idea. Family? I've never seen her before. Arthur didn't slow down, neither did his lawyers. The private elevator carried them to the top floor. When the doors opened, Monica saw a long conference room surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows. Around the table sat 12 board members. Some looked nervous, some looked confused. Every chair was occupied except one. Arthur walked to the head of the table. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Everyone stood, even the CEO, a man in his early 50s with silver hair and an expensive navy suit. He smiled, but it looked forced. Good morning, Dad. Monica glanced at Arthur. So this was his son, Nathan Whitmore. Arthur returned the greeting with a simple nod. Good morning, Nathan. There was warmth in his voice, but also distance. Years of it. Nathan noticed Monica. And who is our guest? Arthur looked around the room. Someone every person in this building should meet. He motioned toward the empty chair. Please, Monica. She hesitated. I don't think I should. You should. Slowly, she sat. She had never imagined sitting beside billion-dollar executives. Now every eye in the room rested on her. Arthur remained standing. For months, I have quietly visited our properties without revealing who I was. A murmur moved through the room. Nathan frowned. You never told me. I wanted honest answers. Arthur looked around the table. I received them. Daniel connected a tablet to the large screen. The security footage from the café appeared. No one spoke. They watched Monica kneel beside Arthur. They watched her offer her own money. They watched Rick fire her. When the video ended, the room remained silent. Nathan slowly leaned back. This happened at one of our cafés? Yes. And no one reported it? No. Arthur's voice stayed calm. Why do you think that is? No one answered. Finally, a woman near the end of the table spoke. They were probably afraid. Arthur nodded. Exactly. He turned toward Nathan. When people fear telling the truth, leadership has already failed. Nathan lowered his eyes. Daniel stood. Our investigation began 2 hours ago. He handed folders to every board member. Inside, you'll find employee statements, customer complaints, security reports, and financial records. One director flipped through the pages. His expression changed almost immediately. There are dozens of complaints. Daniel answered quietly. 118. Another board member looked shocked. How were these never addressed? Nathan's face tightened. They never reached my office. Arthur looked at him. Then where did they go? Silence. Daniel opened another file. They stopped with regional management. He paused. And several were marked resolved without any investigation. Nathan looked stunned. Who approved that? Daniel slid one final document across the table. A signature rested at the bottom. Regional Operations Director, Greg Lawson. Nathan's jaw tightened. Call him. He already knows. The conference room doors opened. Greg walked inside. His confident smile disappeared the moment he saw Arthur. You wanted to see me? Arthur pointed toward an empty chair. Sit. Greg obeyed. Daniel placed another folder in front of him. Would you like to explain why more than 100 complaints disappeared? Greg forced a laugh. It's probably an administrative error. Daniel pushed another paper forward. And this email? Greg's smile faded. It was his own message. Don't waste corporate time over minor customer drama. Close the files. His signature sat at the bottom. The room became painfully quiet. Nathan stared at him. You buried these? Greg swallowed. I was protecting store performance. Arthur finally spoke. No, you were protecting numbers. Greg said nothing. Arthur continued. And you forgot what those numbers represent. He looked around the table. They represent people. At that same moment, Rick Dawson sat alone inside his office at the café. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Corporate human resources, regional supervisors, lawyers. He ignored every call. Then another email arrived. Employment terminated, effective immediately. He stared at the screen. A second email appeared. Formal investigation pending. His shoulders dropped. Yesterday he believed he held all the power. Today he didn't even have a key to the building. Back in the boardroom, Arthur slowly reached into his leather briefcase. He removed an old white envelope. Its edges had turned yellow with age. Across the front were 4 handwritten words. To whoever deserves this. Monica looked confused. Arthur carefully opened it. I wrote this letter 9 years ago. Everyone listened. It was a few weeks after my wife died. His voice softened. I couldn't sleep. So I sat alone in my office and asked myself one question. He unfolded the paper. If I disappeared tomorrow, what kind of company would I leave behind? He looked up. I didn't write this letter for a specific person. I wrote it for the first employee who reminded me why I started this company. He handed the letter to Monica. Her hands trembled. She read quietly. Then tears filled her eyes. The letter wasn't about money or profits. It spoke about kindness, respect, second chances. Arthur had written that every hotel room, every cafe, every restaurant existed for one purpose: to make another human being's day a little better. If the people leading this company ever forget that, the letter ended, I hope someone with an ordinary name and an extraordinary heart reminds them. Monica looked at Arthur through tear-filled eyes. I don't know what to say. You already said it yesterday. I did? When you chose compassion over convenience. Nathan slowly stood. He walked toward Monica. I owe you an apology. She looked surprised. You don't owe me anything. I do. My family built a company on values. He looked around the room. And somewhere along the way, we started measuring success with spreadsheets instead of people. He extended his hand. Thank you for reminding us. Monica shook it. I was just trying to help someone. Nathan smiled sadly. I think that's exactly the point. Arthur looked toward the board. I have one final piece of business. Every director straightened. He turned to Monica. Yesterday you lost your job. She nodded. I did. I'd like to change that. She smiled politely. You don't have to. I know. He reached into another folder. Daniel handed over a document. Arthur slid it across the table. I'd like to offer you a position. She looked down, then froze. Director of Guest Care and Employee Culture. She blinked twice. There has to be some mistake. There isn't. I've never worked in corporate. You've already shown us everything we need. I don't have a business degree. Arthur smiled. I have plenty of executives with degrees. What I need is someone who remembers what kindness looks like. She looked overwhelmed. I can't run a department. You won't do it alone. Nathan spoke up. You'll have a full team. Daniel added, and complete authority to investigate employee treatment across every Whitmore location. Monica stared at the offer. This isn't real. Arthur chuckled. It feels that way sometimes. She looked down at the salary. Her breath caught. It was more money than she had earned in 4 years combined. I can't. Arthur gently interrupted. Yes, you can. She thought about Harold, his medicine, the mortgage, Lily's future. Then she remembered the frightened old man sitting alone in the cafe. Except, he had never really been powerless. Countless others were. She looked back at Arthur. If I accept, you'll tell us the truth, even when it's uncomfortable? Especially then. A slow smile appeared. In that case, she picked up the pen. I accept. The boardroom erupted into applause. Not because a new executive had been hired, because for the first time in years, hope had entered the room. 3 months later, Whitmore Hospitality looked different. Every manager completed leadership training focused on respect and service. Anonymous employee reporting was expanded nationwide. Customer complaints reached headquarters directly. Employee turnover dropped. Guest satisfaction climbed. But those numbers weren't what made Arthur smile. One afternoon, he quietly visited another cafe. No announcement, no security, just another ordinary customer. An elderly veteran accidentally dropped his tray. Before it hit the floor, 2 employees rushed over. "Don't worry, sir. We've got it." Another worker brought him fresh coffee. Someone pulled out a chair. No one rolled their eyes. No one sighed. They simply helped. Arthur smiled to himself. This time, no one knew who he was, and this time, they didn't need to. That evening, Monica arrived home carrying a small bakery box. Lily opened the door. "Did you bring dessert?" Monica laughed. "I promised I would." Harold looked up from his chair. "So, how was your first day?" Monica looked around the little house that had carried her through so many hard years. It felt like coming home. She hugged her father, then her daughter. Outside, the sun slipped below the horizon, painting the sky with warm shades of gold. Across the city, Arthur sat alone on a park bench, watching families laugh and children chase each other through the grass. He slipped his late wife's photograph from his wallet. "I found her," he whispered. "I found the person we were hoping still existed." A gentle breeze stirred the trees. Arthur smiled, tucked the photograph away, and walked on. Because sometimes the strongest person in the room isn't the one with the most money, the biggest title, or the loudest voice. Sometimes it's the person who stops long enough to help a stranger pick up a broken glass. And sometimes, that single act of kindness changes far more than one life. It changes an entire company.